Okay, so I've got some perspective views working here, and also my plans and other views. Well, I've still got a lot of work. Are starting to take on the final shape that they'll have, and so also just looking at the 3D view to give you an idea. Oops, so that's the cutaway one. So that's 3D view showing the whole model. Really, once you've got the envelope of the building modelled like that, you can start thinking about your setup on your sheets and your layouts, and it's actually a major part of the program, which often you don't focus on very much at first, because obviously you're learning all the other tools like the modelling and all the different view and rendering tools you've got, which takes some time. But then, obviously, to give this to someone else, you have to have it set up, usually on a sheet, to then contain your views. And so you might not have done a lot of this. So I'm just going to go through the whole process of setting up some sheets from scratch. And you'll see, if you haven't had a look already in your project browser, that right towards the bottom, not at the very bottom, because you've still got your families and groups and everything else below that, but towards the bottom you've got sheets, and it'll say sheets all unless you've changed one of the settings. So that's definitely what it should say. If it doesn't say sheets all, let me know. And then you can see there actually is a sheet almost always set up in your template. So if you go there, you'll probably see the same sheet as me. And that's an AO sheet. And it obviously has the Autodesk logo and all these other pretty horrible things that we don't want. So I'm going to delete that right away. Just by right-clicking on it, you can go to delete. You don't need to have any sheets in your project. But then I'm going to straight away add a new one by right-clicking on that Sheets All category and then go into New Sheet. And that's the easiest way to make a sheet. You can also go to the View tab, and there we go, so you can make a sheet from there as well. But again, this is probably the easiest way. Right-click, Sheets All, New Sheet, and then it'll show you all the loaded title blocks. And I'm going to go to Load, and if you look in the title blocks folder that comes with the program, it'll at least give you a setup for all the main page sizes, which is useful, even though they've all got the logo in them. But also, if you go to the Revit library that we have here, which if you have to browse to it, it's on the P drive. Then you can go to title blocks there, and you'll see we've got a few more set up for you. So I'm just going to grab one of these, and so A2 might be a good size for this project. Have you been given a sheet size for A1? Oh, good. A1's A1's a good sheet size. Great, yep, that's good. Okay, so I'll just do that. The sheet size for us is entirely up to you. We always try to leave it that way. So, and it's good to think about how you work out your sheet sizes, because you often base that on your plan size and then the scale that you need to have that.
So for your submission, do you want it to be
No, we just need PDFs.
and
Yep.
what do you want them as? What's sheet size?
A1 if that works.
Okay.
But yeah, like I said, it's up to you. So with the different A1 sheets we've got there, you probably almost always use landscape with A1. So I'll go with this A1 landscape below. Open and OK. Right, so it's not the best title block, but it works. And if I select it, you'll see then you can change most of these fields. So the project name would be Museum of Senses, and you could put in all these other things. This one, like I said, it's not the best title block. I know, having used it before, just because these the project address and the contact number, those things should be editable, but they're not. To edit them, you need to go edit family after you select it, and I'll show you that later. But for now, I'm just going to change the things that can change. So the owner we should be able to change, so you can just put design center Enmore, something like that, or your name even. If there's no drawn by, there should be a drawn by in here. Okay, so you can always type those details in the fields that are adjustable directly into the title block on the sheet. So maybe I'll put just cover sheet or something like that for the first one. But if you also go to manage, and then now the buttons have just changed here. Just have to check for the project parameters, and it's one of these buttons here. Here we are, project parameters. Okay, just got to watch out when the buttons change size. So if you go there, then you can change. Oh, sorry, not project parameters, project properties. Sorry, where are we? Project information. Sorry, there we are. And then you can type those things in there, and they'll come up on your sheet. So I'll put in things like the date, and you can see these other things have gone in, but the project number I can still put in. So good way of doing project numbers is the date backwards. And there we are. So you could also put in the identity data, but that won't help you very much with the with this title block, I think. I'll put the author and see if that maybe will come up. Okay, so it's going to depend on the setup of your title block, whether you get all of those details, but you can see the project number. No, that's not coming in there. And that's fine. I'm just going to select the title block and show you how to change them. If you go to Edit Type, and then Load. And so if you've been trying to change families that you've already loaded, it might not have been obvious. If you go to Edit Family, it won't work that way. So, like I've just shown you, the best way this works for all your families, if you go to Edit Type with the family selected, and then click Load there. Okay, so I'm just going to change it to a different A1 title block. So Revit Library, title blocks, and I'll go to this other one, A1 metric. And open, okay. Right, and so you can see it's kept all those details. Some of them don't work so well now, but it has at least put them in. And some of them that weren't there before have come up like a project number. So just got to think about how that's set up, and it's good to always look in your project information just to see all the main details, but also try putting them in on the sheet. So, okay, so here you can see the text there is obviously overlapping. So I want to change this title block pretty drastically and take out a lot of these other things like the logo. So with it selected, you can go to Edit Family just like any other family. And they're pretty easy to work with compared to a lot of the other families in Revit because they're just 2D. So it's just 2D line work just like you can draw in AutoCAD. And you have all the same options you would have in AutoCAD for setting the line weight and the line type and all those other things. So I'm going to do a Save As family and give it a new name. So I'm just going to put that into a different folder. So I'll call it Metric Landscape. So I know what it is. And then, obviously, we want to get rid of all these things, so you can just delete most of those things. Probably don't need consultants or anything like that for a project like this, so that can all just go. Amendments, that's your amendments list. Again, that's probably not useful here. So, the lines and other things, often you can just clear that out. And we've just got the things that we probably need. So, oh, now, so I'm just going to undo actually, because I think I deleted one thing too many. Just going back a little bit. Oh no, it's not there. Okay, so I was just looking for the project address, which sometimes they have in this title block, but here, no, they've just got the project name. Okay, so I'll have a look at putting them in. So let's delete all of that again. And then otherwise the lines, if you want to make changes or add in your own line work, it's a good idea just to have a look at the lines that they've already used, and you'll see they're set up with these subcategories. And so it's easy to set your own heavy and light and medium lines that way on your title blocks, and they'll print appropriately for the scale you're working at always. And then looking at the text fields, you can see here the ones that were causing the problem, the client name and the project name. It's going to select that line and nudge it up with the arrows on the keyboard. And then the text there, you'll see if you select it, some of it's going to come up as a label. So this is the adjustable text. The others there, say the project number, the name, if I select that, you'll see that's just plain text. So that is going to stay as project number on the title block. It'll always say that, whereas the field next to it is going to have the number that we type in. So that's the parameter or the label for the project number. And you can see over there it's coming up as a label, which also has a size. So what I'm going to do, just to make that a bit clearer, you can see we've got a sheet name here. But unless we've put in a sheet name, we don't know what that field is when we look on the title block. So I'm just going to copy this text, just up to the next field, and change that to sheet name. Oops, don't need to enter. So that's labelled then when you look on the title block, and I'll do that for the project name and the client name as well. So again, just copying that text. And it's good to work with the things that are already there because they are set up to work well, even if you don't like it's easy to change the graphics, but just the setup for the labels and the text here, it's good to keep. And so this will be obviously client name and project name. Or even just project. Sorry, you don't need to have that, so that's clear. Okay, so just bring them over a little bit maybe. Actually, I'll keep that all in line, so I'll do that whole side of text. Tie that up a little bit, and maybe just get these a bit further away from each other. So, in case that's a big field, it's got room. And bring this one up too. Right, so I might take this last couple of lines off, and you don't really even need to keep the border on the inside. The outer border you need to keep because that sets the frame for the page. But if you like, you can get rid of that that inner border, because otherwise that will print.
So the outer border is the edge of the page?
Exactly, yeah.
And when you're printing, does that mean that the print border is actually that border that you created?
No, that's the that's a frame within that. So it actually is an edge that would print otherwise. And so here we've got this automatic date, which I don't mind keeping. And so I'll just move that up a little bit. But if you're going to be putting the date in anyway, you could always maybe take that out. It's up to you. Okay, so that's my new title block, and it is just a family like anything else. So I'm going to just make sure that's saved, and so you can see that it's saved there. I'll save you a copy. Well, I'll just save it here first, and I'll save you a copy on the P drive. So I'll just put it in the Museum Sensors folder, and you can see what it's called there, A1 Metric Landscape CC. So now to use that in my project, just need to go load into project, and you'll probably get a message like this when you load families like that, because it's telling you this family can't be used in this view that's open. That's fine. I don't want to use it in this view. So I'm going to go to the sheet that I made earlier, and simply select that title block, and now in my type selector I can choose my new one, and so that'll keep all of those details. And well, you can see it's still not perfect. That's to do with the text justification there. So it's simple now to go edit family, and then, well, you could change the horizontal alignment there. Actually, is the also the vertical alignment is on bottom. Okay, so I'm going to change that to top, and then move it back up. Let's just check client name. That should be on top as well. Yep. Okay, so it's a lot like working with Word and obviously InDesign and other programs where you've got those text tools. So again, load into project, and then I'm going to overwrite the existing version, not the parameter values. Okay, because I've changed properties now, I've put in project information. I don't want that to be overwritten. So first option there, and you can see that's fixed the text. So that's one part of the process, setting up your sheets, looking at the page itself and the title blocks. The other part is looking at your views. So you can see I've made earlier this view called ground floor print, and I've got some section views still showing there that I maybe don't want to show on my title block or on page. So I'm going to right click on the one that I don't want to show and then just use hide in view elements. Otherwise, that's basically the way I might want it to print. So zooming out, you can see there aren't lots of things outside of that. That's the main thing to look for there. Going to the cover sheet. And then to get your views onto the sheet, if you haven't done this before, you simply drag from your project browser onto the page. Click to place them, and it's that easy. And it's one of the main processes in Revit. If you haven't done that before, it's definitely something you need to try. And so there you can see with this view on the page, it's set to a scale. So if you open the view up, you'll see the scale is set on the view control bar. Going onto the page, you can always select the view, and then in properties you'll see that scale. And also it'll come up in your tag. Okay, so then if you go onto a perspective view, you'll see that they don't have a scale. Okay, perspective views have objects that change size. So things in the foreground are bigger than things in the background, so they don't have a uniform scale. And so you set the size of those quite differently when you click on the border. If you go to size crop. Okay, so there might be a few new things if you haven't done much of this. This is, again, one of those important things that's easy to miss with Revit. You need to be able to set the size of your perspective views that way, and you can do it like I've been showing you using size crop on the sheet. But I'm just going to go onto the page and drag that same perspective onto it. Oops, sorry, that was 3, so it must have been 4. Oh no, so was it 2? Yeah, so. Okay, so 3D view 2 ends up being huge on the page. And it can seem pretty random at first until you get used to thinking about the size in this way. So with that viewport selected, you can see it again gives me size crop. And if I click there, you can see the size then in millimeters. And so that tells you how big it is on the page. And it's actually simpler in a way than setting the scale for a plan, because you just set the size and that's the size it prints. But you need to set it to scale if you're just changing the size. So on field of view, that is going to change the view itself because you're changing the amount you're seeing. With scale, it's just going to change the size on the sheet, and that's the option we want here. So it has lock proportions, in other words the width and the height are going to change together, and that's what we want. So I'm going to change the width to 300. If I click over to height, it'll change automatically because again, the proportions are locked. So that's what I want. I could even stay in this dialog box if I hit apply, and I'll see the change without clicking OK. But you can always just click OK anyway. And that's done the size. So it's got the tag still at the original size, And you can adjust that. I'll show you the easy ways of adjusting those tags, stretching the ends and doing all those things. But I'm going to show you a little trick. If you delete the view, drag it onto the sheet again, that'll reset the tag to the new size of the view. So don't be afraid to take your views off the sheets. They're not the objects. So it's no problem if a view's causing a problem just to delete it and then drag it back on, which will actually reset a few things and make them better usually.
Sorry, what was the shortcut to change the size of the title?
Sure. So you just select the, to change the size of the tag, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, so what I did is just delete that view and then drag it on again. And that reset it to the new size of the new width of that view. Right, but it
saves that information to that.
yeah. And so the tag is a separate object, and if you want to, you can still change the length of that line. So I'll just show you quickly how to do that. You can stretch that grip, and that's pretty obvious if you want to change the length of that. The thing that's difficult is moving the tag separately, because if you try to move it, the whole view is going to move. So the trick to moving the tag by itself is just to make sure nothing else is selected, and then you can select the tag only, and it'll move by itself. On its own.
Does it automatically put the image number onto the title?
Yeah, it does, yeah, exactly. So it puts them in order, in the order you've placed them. So these numbers here, if you select the view, you can change it there. So I could make this 3 or something. I can't make it 2 because I've already got a 2 down here. But yeah, you can change them, and that's important later when you do a lot of referencing. It's really good to have those numbers. But the other thing I'm going to show you, with the sort of drawings you're doing for a project like this, that might be too technical, that sort of presentation. So it's not a bad idea sometimes just to set it to no title. Turn the title off and do it with a nicer font in InDesign or something like that. And just use Revit to keep track of the scale and the view size and those things. So here again, I'll just set this one to no title, and much cleaner. And if you want to, you can always draw more text on the sheet. So make sure you use text on annotate, not, well, you can't use model text on the sheet, it won't even let you. So if I go to annotate, you'll see then you've got a text tool there, which is actually your main text tool in Revit. And it gives you all the fonts you have anywhere else, so you can do a lot of your text here. So going to the list of types there, it's only got Arial at the moment. Horrible Arial, but if you go to edit type, then you can change it to any other font you've got loaded. And of course change the size and everything else.
You change the scale of the floor plan from 1 to 1 pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Automatically
That's what you
update
put.
that on the sheet.
Yes, yeah.
So you don't need to delete it off the
No, that's right. That's the whole point. So that's really what Revit's designed for, things like that. So I'll do some text in here, just maybe to label this. We could relabel it with some 5mm text, and just put ground floor plan. Okay, so I can draw text on the page like this, and then I don't need to worry too much about the size. Now I'm going to show you another little trick. To draw in the original view, I could open it up again in the project browser, but once you're working on a sheet, you'll often want to go into your views without leaving the sheet. So you can right click on them and then activate view. And then it's just like drawing in the view, so I can delete walls, do anything else I would normally. And then if I draw text here, again, I just need to choose a size, and this is the size it will print, always. So 3.5 is a good size for text, for labels and things. So, I don't know what these spaces are, let's just say shop 1 or something. I'll copy that one down. So I've got a couple. Okay, so we've got some text there that's labelling spaces in this plan. Then if you change the scale of this plan, the text stays the same size. on the sheet, but the view's changing. Plan's getting smaller on the sheet, so relative to the plan, the text is getting bigger, but again, it's actually the plan that's changing size. So 1 to 50, it'll be the other way. The text will appear small compared to what it was before, but on the page, the plan is actually bigger and the text is actually the same size as what it was before.
Is it actually already set to A1?
Yeah. So that's where Revit's great, managing your sizes and all of those different things as you change scales, and work with accurate measurements and things like that. And so now I've finished working in this view though, and if you right click, whenever you've got an active view, you can always choose deactivate view, which will take you back to the page.
So we won't fit to floor plans on A1.
Oh, you should. If they're 1 to 100, you will. But yeah, not 1 to 50. I'd
No,
say.
we have to make it 1 to 50.
Ah, right. Well, you'll see here now. If I change this to 1 to 50, you'll see exactly what you'll fit. Yeah, it's big. 1 to 50 is a difficult scale to work with. So you will fit it one level, and maybe a couple of other little perspectives or something. But that's about it. Yep. But I'm going to stick with 1 to 100 because I think that's a good scale.
Do you know how big A1 is when you're putting it up? It's massive.
Yeah. A1's fairly big, but you'll get used to it. AO is actually the normal size, the standard size for most things.
It's just that we've got limited fitting walls.
Oh yeah, no, when you're filling for boards. Yep. So I should just show you a couple of final things. So far you've been trying to, I'm sure, model most of what you're designing in 3D, which is a good approach, but also you want to have quite often things shown in your plan that maybe you don't know how to model in 3D or are just causing problems for you. So just remember, you've always got the option of drawing in 2D over the views. And so if I go to, well, I'll just open that view up again. So I'll make it clear to you that when you're working with things like text and dimensions, and then also this new thing I'm going to show you, I don't know if you use detail lines or, remember me, I mentioned them previously, but it was a while ago. Yeah. Yeah, and so, yeah, having done AutoCAD, it'll help you a lot. On the Annotate tab, if you use detail lines, they are just like AutoCAD lines. So you get all the same options for line weight and line type. And so once you know this, it can open up a whole new world with Revit because you don't need to model everything in 3D. Some things you just can't, especially for details and things, it's not worth it. And so you just do as much as you can in 3D and then draw over the top of them in 2D to get the drawing that you need. And so, and that's still well, it's more than a valid approach, it's the main approach people still use in industry. So here, a mezzanine above, if I'm not showing it in section, it might be easier just to show with a dashed line like that. Exactly.
And when you look at them on 3D, that dash line won't be there.
That's right.
It's just visible in this particular
Exactly.
plan.
That's right, exactly. Yeah.
So is it only detail lines that make it that way?
That's right, exactly. Yep. And it's only in this view. So if I go back to the other ground floor,
Yeah.
it's just got the 3D things. And that's really helpful actually, so it doesn't get things mixed up. And then if you want to cover over things, this is one of the main issues you'll have, say with these columns not looking so great in the walls, you can always use regions, and they're just like hatches in AutoCAD. So with a region, you get all the same options if you go to Edit Type and then into your patterns. Basically all the same options for hatching as you do in AutoCAD. It actually uses the same hatch pattern files. So I'm not going to go into how you load those, but if you want to look it up over the holidays, it's a good thing to try. Looking for all the AutoCAD hatch patterns online, there are millions of free pat files for AutoCAD online, and they work with Revit as well. So I'll just do a quick one. Maybe I'd want to cover this wall as a quick thing. There would be definitely better ways to do it than this, but just as an example, I can draw just a rectangle to cover that. And that line on the outside has a weight, so just like the others, you can set the same line weights. And then the fill, you can see here it's set to solid fill black. So I'll duplicate that and we'll make it solid grey. And just change the colour to grey. Tick to finish. And it's done. So you can do all sorts of patterns and things over your drawings like that. It's not as versatile as a graphics program like InDesign, of course, but it's accurate and it's tied to your model. So as you make changes to your design, there's not as much back and forth updating your final sheets and things like that. And so again, this will all come up on the page, of course. And then the final thing I just want to make sure you've seen is dimensions. Dimensions work the same way as the other things I've been showing you, text and detail lines and regions. They're all 2D elements. I'm going to go to wall faces. And I'll just put in an overall dimension. It's always good. And then maybe some internals. So dimensions in Revit are pretty easy to put in as long as you stick with aligned dimensions for most of them. Alright, so that again is 2D, so if I go back to the other ground floor drawings, it's not there, the dimensions aren't there, text and other things. Only in the one that I've been working in, ground floor print. So, going onto the page, they come up there because that is the view I put onto the sheet. I can move my text maybe just to make that better. Okay, so that's how you put all the views on. I'll just get some other kinds of views, like the elevations. Okay, you can see that's going on. It's a bit of a mess though. So it's always a good idea to open the view and tidy it up as much as you need to. So often hiding things is the main process there. These levels I've got that are extra, I probably don't need. Things like the fire stair level and the top of fire stair level, things like that. They're just making it unclear. Sections in elevation aren't really necessary. Grid lines even might be going too far. So all of those things are going to help to tidy it up, but I think I'll just leave it as that for now. And again, looking on the sheet, all those changes will come through. The sections as well, so I'll just grab one of them. So basically the same idea. Sections are automatically going to have a crop region. So think about that. All your views can have the crop region turned on and off. That's this border that you can use to obviously crop things out, and that's a useful thing. But here I just want to hide it so that it's not coming up on the sheet. And again, I'm just going to hide a bunch of these other things. So reference planes, they don't print anyway, but they can just make it look a bit messy and difficult to work with on the page. That's a much cleaner section now, and again, on the sheet, that's all done.
The levels will print that way.
Yes, yep. And they're really useful, so that's a good thing to keep. But then the perspectives. Well, I've got this one obviously to the left, which is shaded. But what if you've done some rendering and you want to put that in on here? If you do the rendering within Revit, you might have seen already, I think, I cancelled it. But basically, once you've rendered, if you go Save to Project, that'll save it within the Revit file. And then you can put it onto the page. From here, you'll get a rendering category. But that's actually not a good method, even though it's the the built-in method. Because often you want to save those files as a PNG or TIFF, work with it in Photoshop, or at least adjust the brightness or something like that, and then bring it back in. And so to do that, you'll need to insert it as an image after you've saved it. And so also if you're rendering with the cloud, and that was the other thing I was wanted to show you briefly. Okay, so it's still better to render locally if you have the time. and I'll just get a different view here. Okay, so I've been showing you when you're rendering. You can do all the setup here in your render dialog, and that's a good thing. And then if you render on best quality locally with a really high resolution, that's probably going to give you the best quality you can get in Revit. But the cloud isn't a bad second best option. It's not far off that quality, and it'll render on the server farm in San Francisco or wherever it is, and that's obviously going to save you a lot of time. So just to remind you how to use that, instead of, well, still set it up here. Okay, so you need to have all of the main things set up, especially whether you're using Sun or Artificial, and also the quality and other things do have an effect. So get that all set up, and at least make sure it's rendering in draft reasonably. And then all you need to do is go rendering cloud. Make sure you're signed in first up the top. So you need your account from the download. And then if you click rendering cloud, hit continue, and you get all the different options for the quality. And once you know it's working, I'd recommend you just go to final, and then at least extra large, if not maximum. Okay, luckily, you don't, for you anyway, you don't have to use any of your credits. These things are expensive. Trust me, they cost quite a bit. Oh, that's just a format. So it's like a JPEG. Oh, well, Photoshop will open PNGs, no problem. Paint even, yeah. Yeah, it's a really standard format. They're like the new JPEG, basically. So, yeah, maybe just some older programs might not work with them, but or some different non-raster programs, but Photoshop definitely can open it. So I'm not going to start this one because I've already sent it. I just wanted to show you. I sent them just as I start the video, as I started recording. And you can check it if you go to Render Progress under your sign-in button there. It wants me to sign in again, okay. Oh. Okay, so once you're through all of the sign-in, it's pretty straightforward usually. Okay, so there you can see the render I sent earlier. It's actually still in the queue. So that'll hopefully be done within an hour or so, but it's a lot faster than if you do it locally. That's on best quality.
So locally it just works off your own Revit program?
Yeah, your own computer. And so, you know, on a laptop or something like that, it just won't do very much. Okay, so that's going to take some time. Sometimes it'll go straight through. It just depends on the queue. You can see I said that one 42 minutes ago, and it's going to be a while. So I'll just insert something else just to give you the idea. All right, so you can insert any image format just on the Insert tab, Image.
So can you insert renders that you've done in Photoshop?
Of course, yeah, absolutely. And so I'll just get something from here, random. Okay, so you can just stretch those like any other image. And it's that easy. So, so that's how you do all the different view types. And so maybe I'll just remind you the final thing there. The graphics in the view effects the final printout. So going back to ground floor print, it's on hidden line, but if I go to shaded, it'll use that. Realistic as well will give you actual textures, so if you want to see the bitmap images you've used in the materials, you can turn those on in Revit, and that can give you some really nice displays actually when you set it up well. My floor material isn't very good there though, so it's looks pretty average at the moment. Actually, that's a very quick thing I can do though, so I'm going to turn that into a floor, a timber floor. Okay, so you can see here this one has a timber material set up automatically, which unfortunately doesn't have boards in it, but I'm sure you know how to change the material to one with a different image, and it would show you the boards. And then other graphics options to think about, you can turn shadows on in all of your views, and that can be a really good option. Remember, the shadows are dependent on your sun direction, so you can always adjust that, and that will give you different shadows. So think about the different options you've got for your plans and other drawings. So maybe not the best shadow direction there, but I'm sure you get the idea. And then, finally, I'll just remind you as well about cropping. So I showed you with the section view, the crop region was already turned on, but with other views you can turn that on always, and if you need to crop out globally, in other words just cropping out large parts of your drawings, you can always do that. The annotation is outside of it, but you can see then it's useful for part plans and things like that where you want to show details. So there I can obviously hide and unhide the crop region with that same tool, but the one next to it actually activates or deactivates cropping. So you can always just turn the cropping off completely. I'll hide the crop region, and that'll get me back to what I had. Right, so there we are. So just think about how you can use those layouts that you have in Revit to help you manage all of your different views. And so again, activating the view there, I can still just get that in so it's not near the edge, which is going to help for the very final thing, which I've just got to do now, which is send this through to print. And so on the main menu where you can go to print, I'm just going to make a PDF. And then the main option to think about here, apart from the print range, I'm just going to put that on current window, and that's usually what it should be on. The setup. This is the #1 problem with printing in Revit. It's on fit to page by default. So all that work you've done getting the scale perfect and all the sizes exactly what you want is for nothing if you leave fit to page on, because fit to page is scaling your drawings. So you're going to lose the scales that are set. Zoom 100% is the normal option you want there, and I don't know why that's not the default. I wish it was, but as long as you remember to go in every time and just set that when you go to print, then things will always print to scale. Okay, you've got to remember to set it back to center. Also, you still should choose the page size. Okay, so that's done now. If I click OK and then preview, that's how it's going to print.
Wow.
So print, OK. Yeah, it's a huge time saver, and the great thing now is I can also go back and just keep working away. I've obviously got, if I was going to develop this up as a design, I'd have a lot of work still to do. But as I do that, it's already set up on the pages with all the different views ready to go. And that's why often with my own projects, I'll set up the views really once I've got an idea of the size of the building, and then I'll set up most of the floor plans and elevations and things, and then do the design.
Yeah, so realistically, they're going to have 2 sheets just for the floor plan.
Yeah, probably. Yep. But even that's useful, even if it's just the one view on the sheet, because you can at least see the page size there and position it and get all those things. And so if it's positioned on an A1 page, even if you're going to take it into InDesign, do a lot of work there, you've located it in that frame, so you don't have to redo your...
Sorry, I was just thinking of 15 levels.
For printing? Yeah, I know. Well, the printers here, they should be working most of the time, but have you seen the one on Enmore Road? The new one? They've got an opening special, an A1. It's the cheapest I've ever seen it. I can't tell you off the top of my head, but it was like $6 for low quality A1, and full gloss poster quality was 15 or something. Yeah, super cheap. Opening special, it's unbelievably cheap. So just on Enmore Road, up near the corner of Station Street, and that's nice. And so where the old RSL used to be, if you know, on Enmore Road there. Okay, so yeah, that's a great little resource if they keep that special going for a while. But anyhow, that's hopefully most of it. And so just try and think about that whole process. It is a big part of the work you do in Revit, but again, when you're first using it, it's maybe not so obvious. And so